Okay, good morning, CC campus. For fine arts, for our virtual learning, we are doing week 17 and we're talking about Michelangelo. This is a self-portrait of Michelangelo. He is a Renaissance painter, born 1475 to 1564. The really interesting thing about Michelangelo is that he didn't really see himself as a famous painter. He saw himself more of a sculptor. You can see the details of his work here. This is David's right hand. This is the top part of the statue of David. But what we're going to be focused on is one of his greatest art masterpieces. This is a picture of the Vatican. And in 1508, Pope Julius II asked Michelangelo to paint the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. So that's what we're going to be attending today. Your tutors will have sent you some files. This is the ceiling. I'm not sure if you can get a good look of it, but this is what we're going to be attending. And there's a PDF that your tutor should send to the group chat. There were some really cool things about this. So originally, when the Pope asked Michelangelo to paint the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, he wasn't too keen on doing it, but at the time it was really unheard of to refuse a request from the Pope. The ceiling covers 12,000 square feet, and these are frescoes, and if you remember, frescoes are kind of wet plaster, and then they are painted on, and when it dries, the plaster and the painting kind of sets in place. And then I thought this was really cool. I had never heard this, but on this panel right here, the fourth panel, so there's 9 panels, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, with 9 different themes. So in this first panel, we have the separation from light and darkness. This one we have creation of the sun, moon, and planets. This one we have the separation of land and water, the recreation of Adam, the creation of Eve, the fall and the expulsion, the sacrifice of Noah, the great flood, and the drunkenness of Noah. So in this fourth panel here, God is depicted as an adult man with white hair. Up until this point, nobody had really drawn God as a person. And what's really cool, maybe this is a better image, this is a close-up, is that you can see here that God here, as he's reaching out to Noah, he is surrounded by angels. And it's almost as if the angels surrounding God are in the shape of a human brain, possibly demonstrating the God giving intelligence to man. So with all that said, we'll jump into our art project. You can use the materials you have at home, okay? So we are just going to be using, I'm going to do an example that you could do with the little kids. So kids that would have been that are in Manning Mahala class. This is a exercise you could do with any sheet of paper. What you'll need is some watercolors. So this could be a Crayola palette. This could be whatever. We were going to use oil pastels, but you could also use crayons. You could use like tempera paint sticks, whatever you have on hand, some water, and some paintbrushes. So the assignment today is for each class or each student to create their own panel to add to their class Sistine Chapel. So I picked 5 themes. These are laminated copies, sorry about the glare. 5 themes that the student can choose from. So this is the separation of light and darkness. And these are just examples of things that you could draw. This is just meant to take inspiration. This is from the flood, so your student could draw a rainbow, a dove, even just the olive branch. They could do a rainbow pattern. They could draw the ark themselves. They could draw water or waves. This is the separation of land and water, so any one of these they could take inspiration from. They could do the creation of the sun and moon and planets. They could just draw a sun. They could just draw a moon. They could, you know, do all of the planets. They could pick one planet. They could do the stars. And then this is separation of light and darkness. I know this might seem redundant, and maybe these two themes will look alike, but you know, the sun and the moon is a representation of light and dark. But these are just some ideas that your student can look at, get inspired from, and decide what they want to draw on their panel. So let's pretend that I am a 6-year-old fine arts student and that I wanted to do the light and darkness. So I might choose to divide this in half and do the sun here. And then I might choose to do the moon here. Maybe I'll mix it with some white. Maybe I'll do a line here. When you use the watercolors, some of this will kind of fade into it. But then at this point, they can, I'm going to use some orange and yellow for the sun. Maybe add some red. Add some orange. And then just kind of color in the black background. And they can use, of course, like a bigger piece of paper if they want. And let's say for the moon, I'm gonna do a mixture of black, maybe a mixture of blue. And again, I'm moving fast so that this video isn't too long, but really give them time to look through the images and decide what they want to do. And then I might do craters and then go in with some gray. And there we go. This would be my panel of separation of light and darkness. Now, if we move on to your older students, so anybody in Sanders, Manning, Osdike, or Kratzer, obviously their picture might be more detailed. Let's say in this one, I'm going to choose maybe I'll do the separation of water and land. So I would take my green pastel here and I would draw the landscape. Okay, and then I would take my blue crayon, marker, any sort of thing. They could even use pencil and Sharpie if they wanted to. I just felt like we hadn't used this medium before. And then let's say land is over here. And then I could just go in with my watercolors and mix in my paints. And I love kind of being messy with watercolor and really getting in some of these kind of creating some dimension with a mix of the same color scheme. And then let's do the water here. But the idea for the older kids was that they were going to draw a theme, and then as a group they were going to have to work together to decide how they were going to create different panels. The little kids were going to have their free pick, and the big kids were going to be kind of assigned a theme and then work together as a table to make sure that they weren't all for drawing a sun, or they were all for not drawing, you know, the solar system, but they would have to kind of decide and talk as a group to decide what they would do so that their table could successfully create, you know, communicate through art one of the themes of the Sistine Chapel. And so that's kind of the gist. I'd probably, you know, would, you know, maybe do some sky here. You know, they could even go in after the fact and do details with, you know, the oil pastels or whatever you have on hand. But that was going to be art for this week. Thanks so much, guys.